Slavery, feudalism, and capitalism. Now, these systems may seem very different to many people, but when a closer look is taken, we can tell that these systems are very similar in who they produce labor for and who they benefit at the end of the day. Now, you may think that capitalism and freedom is like having the ultimate freedom and that you can do whatever you want, but this is untrue. In fact, many people have to work for the rest of their lives and they can't retire. Many people can't quit their jobs ever and they can't travel anywhere. It's a constant cycle of just going in 9 to 5 and then coming back home and doing it all over again the next day. Today, we'll go over the beginnings of the exploitation and the problems. Then we'll look at the conflicts between the employer and the employee. Then we'll look at where the surplus labor goes and who decides where it goes. So the first thing we'll look at today is history of it. And the first thing we need to know is that capitalism is very unstable. In fact, since 1945, there's been 11 business downturns and sort of many recessions. So when it started, the wages of workers and the production of workers were going up at the same rate. People were getting paid well, but this doesn't go on forever. So this happened because the employees and the people who own the factories, they wanted workers because there's a shortage of workers. And so to get the people to America and to work for them, they had to pay them a lot. And that's the ways that they got them to work for them. But now, starting in like 1970, there's a steady increase of workers. There's a steady increase as everybody needs a job. And so the capitalists, they had this realization that they didn't have to pay anybody that many dollars, that much money. So they started reducing the wages, and they started increasing the production while also reducing the wages, and they never went up. And so what we have is, so these people who were reducing the wages, they're getting a bad rap because, they're not paying the workers that much. And so they had this idea that they portray themselves as some like great businessmen, great entrepreneurs that have great ideas, and that they're above everybody else, and they're just so intelligent that they worked so hard for their money that they're making. And so they made you think that it's our fault for being poor, and that if you just work hard enough, then the money you make, you can be as great as them. And the 11 business downturns is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. All right, so now we're going to go to where the problem starts with the employee and the employer. And so this story is from economist Richard Wolff, and he says that when you go get a job and you go get hired, when you discuss like the things you're going to do, where you're going to work, what you're going to do, like the times of day, when you'll come in, and you discuss all those things, and you want to work for them. But the most important thing that you discuss on that meeting is how much you're going to get paid. And so you need the money that you get paid to buy houses, your necessities, food, shelter, all those things. But so when you guys agree, say you agree to like $20 an hour. So this is the most important. The only circumstance in which the employee will pay you $20 an hour if he gets in return more money than $20 an hour for what you're doing. And this is just the way it works. Because if this doesn't happen, then the employee doesn't get the money, and he doesn't, what's in it for him, right? And so what we've got is you go in and they take your surplus that you have, the money that you make. He pays you the $20. They keep the extra. You go home. You leave the work you did there behind, and then the person in charge gets to decide, like the one person, what to do with the money that you made that just disappears and you never see it again. And so the last part we'll discuss is where the money goes and what they do with it, the board of directors. So According to Investopedia, each company has a board of directors of about like 15 people. And so with the board of directors, they decide with a surplus that 100,000 like workers make every day, 15 people decide where that money goes. They decide where to do with it and who gets paid the most. So one of the first things people do with this money is they pay it to the government in taxes. But this doesn't really work that well because the people in charge are paying the CEOs and like the people to reduce that amount of money to the lowest amount possible. They want to pay the lowest amount for the taxes, so they find ways to get it down to practically nothing. Next part, it goes to like clerks, workers, CEOs, all the top executives, and they get paid the more money, the more taxes they reduce, the more money get paid. So it creates kind of an incentive for them. Then the money goes to expanding businesses, expanding capital. But in America, this money, we don't ever see this expanding business and capital because the businessmen just take it to other countries where the labor is cheaper. And so the money never gets shown to the workers anymore. So the last part that people do with the money is they spend. So in the system, they got the shareholders who decide they can pay the shareholders the amount of money from the surplus. And the shareholders, like 75% of them is owned by the top like 1%. And so the shareholders, they get the money for investing in their company. But the more money you have, like the more votes you get. And so the people at the top, they have a lot of votes, a lot of money. But then in Washington, in the democratic system, it doesn't really like work with that. Everybody has one vote. Every citizen has one vote. And so they're worried and they say, how do we get more votes in here? So they pay lobbyists, they pay politicians to like forward their agenda on. All right. Today we talked about the beginnings of exploitation and where the problem starts. We talked about the conflict between the employee and the employer. We talked about the surplus and where the money that the workers get go. And so as you leave today, remember that people aren't as free as we think they are, and better systems are out there. And just because, we've been with it for a long time doesn't mean people can change, and things can change too.